Good evening, Commissioner Edwards.
Good evening. How's everybody?
Doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening. I'll go on mute until you need me.
Okay, thanks. Okay, it looks like it is now 5 o'clock. Mr. McLean, are you ready to go on the record?
Yes, Your Honor. You are on the record.
Thank you. I call cases 22E0064 and 22G0065, proceedings on motions of the Commission as to the rates, charges, rules, and regulations of Consolidated Edison Company of New York, Incorporated for electric and gas service. Good evening and welcome. My name is Ashley Moreno, and I'm an Administrative Law Judge for the Department of Public Service. Administrative Law Judge James Costello is also present, and together we are responsible for presiding over today's hearing. We are joined by Joseph White, Sangeetha Kailas, and Joanne Palmatier of the Department's Office of Consumer Services, who will be providing technical assistance this evening. We are here today for a public statement hearing that was noticed on March 8, 2023. This hearing is to receive your comments on the joint proposal filed in these proceedings on February 16, 2023. Under New York State law, the Public Service Commission may adopt or reject the joint proposal in whole or in part, or to modify it. The Public Service Commission will decide what Con Edison's terms and conditions of service will be. The Public Service Commission has 7 members, the chairperson, Rory Christian, and 6 commissioners, who are Diane Berman, James Alessi, Tracy Edwards, John Howard, David Valesky, and John Maggiore. And we are fortunate to have with us this evening Commissioner Tracy Edwards. And Commissioner, would you like to address the participants?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. These public hearings are a great opportunity to provide all of us a chance to hear from you directly. That is why I try to participate, as do the rest of my commissioners' colleagues, as much as possible. We want to thank you for taking your evening so that you can speak to us directly. I will be on for its entirety, and I thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us tonight. Thank you very much, Judge, and let's get started.
Thank you so much. And I believe we are also expecting Chair Rory Christian to be joining us. He has not joined quite yet, but I'm sure that he will be eagerly listening to all of your comments when he does join us. Okay, with that, I will just take a moment now to explain the process that we are going to follow this evening. As stated, the purpose of our hearing is to provide you with an opportunity to tell the Commission your thoughts on the joint proposal and Con Ed's proposed rates. The statements that you make here today will become part of the case record. We have a court reporter joining us who will be preparing a transcript of the hearing, which will be included in the official case record for these proceedings. so that your comments can be considered by all of the members of the commission. And when a transcript is ready, it will also be posted for public view on the Department of Public Service website. So the hearing this evening is not an evidentiary hearing or a question and answer forum, but it's really an opportunity for us to hear from you. And I will also just take a moment to point out that this is not the only opportunity for comment. If you did not register to speak at this evening's hearing, or you would prefer not to make a statement here tonight, you can have your views included in the record through a variety of other means that were listed in the public notice for today's event. You can do so by submitting comments on the department's website, by email, regular mail, or by phone. And regardless of how the comments are submitted, they will be given equal consideration. Comments may be submitted throughout the pendency of these proceedings. We did ask in the notice that they be submitted by April 14th, but that said, while it's pending before the commission, all of your comments will be considered. And for those of you who are participating electronically, those different means of submitting comments are also on your screen. If you have registered to make a statement, we'll just ask that you please summarize any lengthy written statements orally and then submit the full written statements by email or mail. We do have people who have registered to speak tonight. We have some who are participating electronically and others who are participating by telephone. In either case, we just ask that you use one audio input. Otherwise, sometimes we experience problems with feedback. I will call the persons that have registered to speak one by one. If someone is not available when I call them, we will circle back at the end, and I'll continue on with the next person. We'll circle back at the end to see if any of the persons who were not available are then available to speak. For telephone participants, when I call out your name, I will ask that you press *3 on your telephone. That will help us locate your line and unmute it. It might just take us a moment to locate you, so please be patient with us. When your line is unmuted, you will hear a beep, or you will be otherwise notified that your line has been unmuted. If you have muted your own telephone, just make sure that you take yourself off mute before you begin your statement. For people that have registered electronically, after I call your name, we will unmute your line. Again, we appreciate your patience. It might just take us a moment to locate you. You should hear a tone and see that the microphone icon is no longer red. Please be reminded again that if you have connected through a telephone, that you'll need to make sure that your line is unmuted as well if you muted your telephone line. I will start by calling on members of the public who have registered to speak, and then we'll move to individuals who have registered to speak that are parties to the proceedings. As parties, you have greater privileges and opportunities to shape the record in these proceedings, and consequently, we ask that you summarize any lengthy comments and submit them in writing. Please speak slowly and clearly so that the court reporter can accurately capture your statement for the record. When your line is unmuted, please state your name, and if you're speaking on behalf of an organization, please name that organization for us. Once we confirm that we can hear you, please proceed to make your comments. So with that, I will turn. Our first speaker is Carol Chatiak, and if you have called in, please press *3 on your phone. That will help us to locate you. Carol Chatiak. Okay. We will move to the next speaker, Jean Neely. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3. Okay.
Not seeing any raised hands, Rona.
Thank you. We will move to Jeffrey Piatov. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3. Catherine Rojas. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3, that would be helpful. Okay, we will turn to Peter Toe, or Peter 2. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3. Tina Volsbonger. And if you've called in, again, if you could press *3. Okay, we'll try Bonita Ninig. Okay. Eleanor Livesey.
I'm
yeah.
here.
Thank
Eleanor
you.
Livesey, Mill River Road, Chappaqua. I've been a resident for 62 years at that house in Chappaqua. And I believe that this extraordinarily rate hike is much too large. You know, 31%, 20+% is outstandingly expensive. Living in Westchester is difficult for residents who are elderly, and I am elderly. I've paid these rates lots of years. I would appreciate some consideration of dropping the amount of the rate increase. I understand the need for rate increases, but that 31% for gas and whatever it is for electricity is much too high. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker will be Andre Easton. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3. Okay, we will turn to Joan Reine. And again, if you've called in, *3. Sylvia Johnson. And again, *3 if you've called in. We have an Amanda B. And if you've called in, press *3. Barbara D. Jacinto. And it looks like you're participating electronically and your line has been unmuted.
Good afternoon. I'm Barbara D. Jacinto, Deputy Supervisor for the town of North Castle. I'm expressing my opinions, which represent the sentiments expressed by many North Castle residents concerning proposed gas and electric rate hikes. The proposed rate increases are troubling because we are all spending much more money on day-to-day necessities due to inflation and the rising cost of just about everything. Therefore, Con Ed's proposed double-digit rate hikes are unacceptable at this time. It's my understanding over 3 years, average residential customers will experience a 27% increase. $6 a month increase will become $18 a month increase over 3 years. Gas for home heating will increase for the average Con Ed customer over 3 years, 28% increase. The average first year increase $13, and by the third year, over $40 a month. Con Edison customers will be required to pay a higher monthly fixed charge, 18% for electric and between 20 and 34% for gas, regardless of the amount of energy used. Although Con Edison needs to maintain and upgrade its infrastructure in order to provide reliable service, this is not the time to impose very significant rate increases. Our senior citizens living on fixed incomes are terrified by these proposed gas and electric hikes. Those with disabilities, health issues, struggling families, yes, and even our middle-class residents can only stretch a dollar just so far. Please, if you must increase rates, keep the increase to single digits Certainly, Con Ed has a responsibility to its CEO, board of directors, stockholders, employees, but financial obligations should not break the backs of your customers who have made you what you are to a certain degree. Therefore, I beg you to roll back the proposed rate increases for gas and electric services for the next 3 years so they do not exceed 9%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be John Rhodes. And if you've called in, if you could press *3, please. Okay. Our next speaker will be Lori Wheelock. And good evening.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good evening, everyone, and thank you again to Commissioner Edwards and everyone for the opportunity to testify tonight. My name is Lori Wheelock, and I'm the Executive Director and Counsel for the Public Utility Law Project, and we go by PULP for short. My pronouns are she, hers. I come here tonight 1 year ago yesterday, which was the first night I had testified in opposition to the Con Ed proposed rate increases. Yesterday, PULP filed our statement in opposition of the joint proposal, citing a number of reasons and arguments. At the top of that list was affordability. The truth is that New Yorkers are already stretched thin, with volatility in the supply side of the bill being just one of the factors they're already experiencing high electric and gas prices. PULP is particularly concerned about the approximate 440,000 low-income households that are not currently enrolled in Con Ed's monthly discount program known as the EAP. We're very concerned that they're just not going to be able to bear another increase. But tonight I'm here to address another one of PULP's main concerns, which is the 9.25% return on equity that's included in the joint proposal. To provide some level setting, what is an ROE? The ROE is the allowed return on equity, which drives the utility's profitability. Expenses are passed through to customers by having a set rate of return. Utilities essentially are incentivized to make capital investments or build in order to increase their rate base and profits. Now, what's the problem with the proposed ROE? Well, PULP's research indicates that Con Ed's customers have paid an estimated $1.8 billion in unnecessary excessive delivery charges since 2010. Why did this happen? Our research shows that customers have paid this approximate $1.8 billion in extra charges because the ROE is set for the entire rate term, often 3 years at a time, while not including an update mechanism to account for changes in macroeconomic and investment expectations that affect the company's cost of equity as realized during the rate plan. When setting the ROE, the parties rely on what's called a generic financing methodology. It uses multiple factors to produce the recommended ROE. These factors include expectations for economic growth, inflation, stock prices, dividends, interest rates, and other variables. Setting the ROE once for the entirety of the rate plan leaves the public at a disadvantage because changes in any one of the factors will result in a change to the model's recommended ROE. With everything facing ratepayers and the public today, PULP believes that the Commission and the utilities and the stakeholders need to work together to think outside the box. We have to explore new methods to cut costs for ratepayers and share the energy burden and the costs. PULP believes that an annual ROE refresher is a new, creative method that ultimately benefits the public. There needs to be an annual update or reconciliation during the entirety of the rate plan, rather than the same stagnant ROE for 2 to 3 years at a time. As a result, PULP argues that the 9.25% ROE proposed by the settling parties in this proceeding is not in the public interest because it's unlikely to result in just and reasonable rates for Con Ed's customers. We therefore urge the Commission to reject the joint proposal as is and consider requiring Con Ed to update the ROE on a yearly basis. That concludes my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Judith Canepa. And just bear with us 1 minute while we unmute your line.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Thank you.
Sounds good. My name is Judith Canepa. I'm with Sane Energy Project, and I live in the foot of the 14th Street Con Edison repowering plant. And I'm speaking in solidarity not only with my neighbors here who live in the East Village, which is where the methane spike is the highest in Manhattan, and where we are considered a disadvantaged community. I'm also in concert with people in Westchester, in the Bronx, Astoria, and other parts of Con Edison's rate base. I'm concerned that as some of us move away from our addiction to Con Edison, that leaves the people left behind who will have to shoulder increased rates. And I see this rate increase as based on a few mistruths. One is that the customer base is growing. Indeed, actually, we know that it will fall, and that the delivery charges are Con Edison's way of making it up, so that as in the past years during COVID, the executives and the investors in utilities continue to make an enormous profit off of the backs of regular people. We also are concerned not only for our economic health and our physical health, those of us who live in areas where this infrastructure is being proposed, miles and miles of pipes that don't need replacement. With new pipes, they need replacement with new technology and renewables. Miles of pipes are being proposed for replacement, and additions to power plants. And the effects on us are not just our health, not just the health of our pockets, but the increasing gas infrastructure at a time when we're getting the most urgent and alarming messages from the United Nations, from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, cries for help to stop this onslaught of fossil fuel expansion and extraction at a time when the Earth, just the atmosphere and our life support system can no longer be assured. Scientists worldwide tell us we have no time to lose. We have an amazing, groundbreaking legislation in New York State, the Community Leadership and Climate Protection Act. It's setting a pace for the rest of the country. If it's implemented properly, and we're having a battle fighting for that to happen, how can we give people a rate hike of something that's going to remain in the ground as stranded assets that we're going to keep paying for and paying for long after we've left this gas behind? We're going to leave it behind one way or another. Either we're going to leave it behind because we've grown out of that, or because we have no choice and our systems fail. That's it for me, and thank you very much.
Thank you. That is the end of the list. As I mentioned before, I will go through again to see whether any of the folks who have registered to speak have joined us and are available to make their comment now. So I'll go back and check to see whether Carol Chatyak has joined. Carol Chatyak. And if you have called in, if you could press *3 on your phone, that will help us to locate you and unmute your line. Okay, how about Jean Neely? And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3, that will help us to locate you. Jeffrey Pietov. Okay. Catherine Rojas. Peter Toe or Peter Two. Tina Volz-Bonger. Bonita Mineg. Andre Easton. Joan Reine.
Hi.
And hi there.
Hi, can you hear me? It's Joan Reine.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi,
Please go ahead and make
marvelous.
your statement.
Okay, darlings. I just want to say I am a neighbor of Con Edison, and Con Edison has been a lousy neighbor where all their neighbors have been good neighbors. And Con Edison has a history of circumventing what is safe for a high asthma area. During their period that we knew them, they didn't even want to raise their smokestacks on the grounds that they didn't want to ruin the aesthetics of the Lower East Side. So instead, they ruined our lungs. So anytime Con Ed has had an option, they've fallen way short of community protection. And right now, there is a new amendment in the New York State amendment for clean air and clean water, those rights. And the governor has asked that Con Edison get pilot programs to talk about alternatives and not keep building an infrastructure, even though we know that money can only be made in the city by building. Money is never made by rent or by fees. We know it's only made by building. And so we're begging you guys to either make them an offer of something that is really what they say their mission is, and that's that let them start pilot programs and let them start with their neighbors who have been supporting them for years as they have overpriced on delivery. We live next door. I think we pay a close tax. We pay extra because we live so close. So these guys need to be looked at in context, not just in what the number is that they're asking. The governor is asking just the opposite. Lo and behold, she's asking that we quit Con Ed and that Con Ed quit. So if you're going to give them money, give it for an alternative project and let them be good neighbors. They're going to love it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next speaker will be Sylvia Johnson. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3. Amanda B. John Rhodes. Okay, that concludes the list of registered speakers that I have. I will open it up to see whether, and I see that we have a number of folks who have joined this evening, and I'll just open it up so that if any member of the public would like to make a statement on the record this evening, that you have the opportunity to do that. If you've called in and you would like to make a statement, you can press *3 on your phone, and that will indicate to us that you'd like to make a statement. And if not, if you've called in electronically, or if you're participating electronically, if you use the raise hand function, that will help us to locate you and unmute your line so you can make a statement. Okay, it looks like we have Rose Seabrook.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm a New York City resident and a forced Con Ed customer. And what I mean by that is it's been said before, there's no competition or anything. So I agree with all of the statements that we've heard previously in these hearings. And I'd also like to say that I have additional concerns, and that is the joint proposal signees. I we can surmise that Walmart, the MTA, and so forth, why they're signing off on this, but I'm just not sure why they're signees on this proposal. I would like that to be made clear. And in fact, I feel like the proposal was not written for the lay person, the average person. So it was very difficult for me, I'm very average, to understand what they're actually asking for, or why they're asking for these raises. The other thing I want to say is that they're requesting a 3-year increase or increases over 3 years, regardless of the level or quality of their service and or delivery. I'm totally opposed to that. I think someone had said in a previous hearing that, you know, you don't pay in advance, regardless of quality or level of service. So they're asking for this. Why? The last I'd like to say is that I hope that the comments made in these proceedings really help to guide the commission's decision on this. It's just outrageous, and Con Ed has just not been a very good company. We do need competition or just another delivery format. Thank you.
Your Honor, if you're speaking, I can't hear you. You're muted. There you go.
Very much. I was speaking into a mute button. Thank you very much. I'll just open it up once more. If any member of the public would like to make a statement this evening, you're welcome to do so. If you're participating electronically, if you could please use the raise hand function. And if you have called in, you can press *3 on your telephone, and that will help us to locate you and unmute your line.
No raised hands, Your Honor.
Okay. Well then, I think what we will do then is to, I'll just reiterate what we mentioned earlier, that all members of the public have the opportunity to submit comments, and if you have something additional that you'd like the commission to consider, or you did not comment that you wish the commissioners to consider in making their determination, there are a number of other ways that members of the public can submit comments. For those of you who are participating electronically, those are on the screen before you. You can do so by mail, by phone, or electronically. And all of those different methods to submit comments are included in the the notice of the public statement hearing that was issued on March 8th of 2023. We request that comments be submitted by April 14th, but the commission will consider all public comments that come in up until their decision is made. So with that, Judge Costello and I would like to thank all of you for your time and attention this evening, and the commenters for letting us know their opinions about the joint proposal and Con Ed's rate proposal. We also wish to thank Commissioner Edwards for being present this evening, along with us listening in, and our staff from the Consumer Services Office for administering the session. And thank you also to our court reporter. So with that, we thank you very much again, and have yourselves a good evening. Our hearing is concluded.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening.